Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Blair Lamb. I make videos about a little bit of everything: lifestyle, travel, home content, Disney, motherhood, just a little bit of everything. Today I'm really excited to share a little bit of my story and hopefully provide a little bit of hope and encouragement if you are someone who is walking through living somewhere that you really don't enjoy, or you know you're going to move somewhere that you really aren't going to enjoy, or you're just nervous about a new move, like whatever the case may be. I hope maybe sharing a little bit about what I have walked through over the past 7 or 8 years and where I am now from where I've been. Maybe that could be just a little bit of hope, a warm hug to you. I know what it's like. So let me kind of rewind a little bit and share more of the backstory to this. So it's 2023 now. It's actually, we're towards the end. We're about in November. And so this whole saga has been going on now for quite a few years. So when I got married to my husband, I moved to live close to him because he and his family run a business, and that family business is something that we weren't willing to give up and live somewhere else. So what we ended up doing was moving to his small town where he grew up. And this was in 2015. Now we got married in July of 2015. So for the first 6-8 months, I was just so happy. It was newlywed bliss, full out honeymoon, like nothing mattered. I was just so happy to be married and have our own little home together. We had this tiny little apartment, and I wasn't overly concerned about feeling more planted or rooted in my new town. And that was sort of the story. Well, then we rolled into 2016. So that was the first full calendar year that we were married. And as we get into 2016, we bought a house. And with buying a house, I think for a lot of people, there is this feeling of putting down roots because you've just invested into a property, and most people don't just pick up then and move. And so we ended up living in that house for 7 years or so. I'm in a new home now, but for quite a while we were in our old house, which we loved so much. We just recently sold it. Kind of bittersweet, you know? So with moving into the new house, I think I had some unspoken expectations of what it would look like moving forward as far as feeling more at home in our new community, and that just did not happen. Those things just did not come to fruition. And 2016, from a social, mental health, emotional perspective, was one of the hardest years of my life. I felt so alone. I felt so frustrated. I felt like I wanted to escape. I felt really stuck, which was an awful feeling because I wasn't sure how to overcome it. And it just continued to, it felt like a snowball rolling down a mountain and just getting bigger and bigger, to where there were so many days of 2016 where I remember just crying to Riley, my husband, and it was just terrible. And we were attending church, and I was reaching out to local organizations like the local Boys and Girls Club to volunteer there, and just really trying to get my foot in the door in these community places and just kind of find my place. I really wasn't just sitting at home and crying about it. My work at the time, and still now, is just completely solo. I work by myself. I run this YouTube channel, and then I have a shop called BlairLambDesign.com where I sell mostly t-shirts, but also sweatshirts and, decorated garments basically. And so I'm working alone, so it wasn't like I was going to meet coworkers. And then we have a couple of Riley's family members in town, and so I was close with them, but they had their own lives, and his older sister has 3 kids and works full time, so she was, super unavailable. And then Riley's younger sister was very much in the throes of building her career and whatnot. So it was this very interesting thing where I just felt super solo all of the time, which put a lot of pressure on our marriage because Riley felt like, and I felt like, he was really the only close person that I had in my life. And that's a lot to put on a marriage, And so that's sort of what transpired over the course of 2016. There were some friendships that were, that started to be built. The struggle for me at that time was that we didn't have any kids. We weren't trying for kids yet. We had just gotten married, less than a year ago. And for some folks, that's, that people are ready to have babies right away. We just wanted a little bit of time, just the two of us. So we weren't ready for that season of life yet. And all of these women I was meeting had not just like one kid, but 3 or 4 kids and just a lot of kids, which is so great and awesome. But I felt like our lifestyles and day to day were so very different. And now having 2 kids of my own, it is so different. It just is. The priorities that a mother has and her schedule and time and flexibility are just, at least for me now, so very different from who I was back then and what those things looked like for me back then. So that was a real challenge. I would become friends with women and we would start to get to know each other, and it felt like all we talked about was breastfeeding and nursing and sleep regressions and these kinds of things. Now as a mom, I totally get it. It's your whole world. It's like what you're thinking about, waking up and going to sleep. But when you don't have kids yet, that can be really challenging. So my heart goes out to you if you are in a similar situation, because whether you want kids and you haven't been able to have them yet, or you're just not ready for kids yet, or maybe you would not like kids at all, it's hard as a woman, I think, sometimes when the conversation is just so centered around motherhood, because a lot of times I didn't really know. Obviously, I didn't have anything to say about like breastfeeding a baby. I didn't have kids. So anyway, there's a lot more to say about that year of 2016, but it was rough. There were a lot of tears, a lot of long hot showers where I would just sob. I remember calling, for out of town friends and just being like, I just hate it here. I hate living in this small town. I can't find any friends. Everybody here is so weird. I remember saying that over and over. Everyone here is just so weird. And there's just nothing to do, and there's nowhere to go out to eat, and I just am miserable. So 2017 rolls around. And with the new year, like a lot of people, I had this like newfound interest in sorting this whole situation out. And I decided that I was going to make my word for the year for 2017 rooted. And I actually shared monthly here on YouTube, monthly video updates about this whole journey, about, I don't know, trying to find my place here, trying to meet people here, just trying to feel more rooted, all the things that go along with that, not being so upset about what the town does or doesn't have, like all those things. And I shared from January all the way on through December. And then I also did at least one update, I think in 2021. If I remember correctly, when I did the update, we were pregnant with Colin, my second, but we hadn't announced publicly yet. I was newly pregnant with Colin, maybe 8 weeks pregnant or something like that. I think is about when the last time I did that update. But I will link that playlist below. It's very raw. I don't watch those videos back. I don't watch really any of my videos back. It's like cringy to watch yourself back for some reason, but they will make you feel very seen, I believe, if you are walking through something similar, because a lot of folks have told me that. I just sat on my front living room couch and just basically cried for 12 months. And towards the end of the year, things started getting a lot better and I started feeling a lot more settled, but it wasn't awesome. Like it wasn't completely 100% everything sorted out. It was just getting better, which is great. Progress is progress, just one step at a time. I just never could have imagined after getting married in 2015 that it would take so long to feel settled, because I grew up in the same hometown all my life. So my kindergarten and first grade friends were also my friends when I was graduating from high school. Then when I went off to college, it's of course all young adults looking for friends. So I snapped into friend groups in college very, very immediately. The very first weekend of college, I felt like I already had some really great friends that I had their numbers. We called each other, we got together. I had this whole group starting to form. I joined a sorority and I became great friends with all of those gals. And so it was just like not a challenge socially. Then I moved to Austin for for a job right after I graduated from college, Austin, Texas. I grew up in Maryland, and then my college was in North Carolina. So then I moved over to Austin, Texas, and I originally had a job I hated. Then we all got laid off and the company went under. But then I got another job that I totally loved, and all of my coworkers became my best friends. One of my coworkers was the officiant who married Riley and I. These are people that I just like loved dearly, and they were close soul inner circle kind of friends that I could be super open and honest with. And I just had this amazing community there. And then I moved up here to the small town, and it was all shattered, and I really had a hard time. I had never moved as a kid, and then I didn't struggle meeting friends and finding my place in college or in, post-grad young adulthood. So here I was, a married woman, feeling like, oh my gosh, this is miserable. I'm really unhappy. And that was a scary thing. I didn't know what exactly to make of it. So anyway, the Rooted series goes through 2017. Definitely lots of strides, lots of progress. So then towards the end of 2017, Riley and I decided to start trying to get pregnant. And it didn't go as we thought it would. I had no reason to believe that it would be difficult for us to conceive. And it took about 12 or 14 months. There at the beginning, it was a little bit like not trying, not preventing. And that was like the end of 2017. But then all of 2018, the entire year, every month, we were really, really devastated because it was just negative test after negative test for the entire year. And that does something to a person. It was horrible. And that made me feel, for some reason, even more resentful about where we lived, even though obviously our city wasn't like determining whether or not I was going to get pregnant. There was just this frustration. And for many women, including me, it felt like an extremely private struggle. I didn't tell my sister, who I'm very close with, didn't tell my mom. It was just between Riley and I. Didn't tell any of our friends. It was just something I felt like I wanted to keep really close to my chest. Looking back now, I wish that I hadn't. I wish that I had asked for more support, because my decision to not reach out for support made me feel ultimately a lot more isolated than I already was struggling with. And so that was, all of 2018. So then towards the end of 2018, if I'm remembering my dates correctly, we had been attending a little small church, and it was super low key, like one guy on the guitar for worship, very just like rugged home church kind of feel. I really loved it, and I loved the vision of the church, and the whole kind of premise of it at that time was to be a church that doesn't have all the pomp and circumstance. It doesn't have the feel of a huge mega church. It's not like lights and teams and all this. It's just a group of people who love Jesus getting together. That was extremely appealing to me then. It still is now. So in late 2018, very suddenly, the church made a shift and moved into a very large old Baptist church in town and merged with that congregation. And these things happen, right? It just is a part of life. But it was a really striking culture shift, as you can imagine, from like a very low-key, very raw kind of feel to a much, much more polished, larger, bigger congregation, lots of teams and red tape and just everything that went along with that. And this was towards hitting, the year mark. This was happening right around like the year mark that we had started trying to have a baby. And so I was not in a great mental place. I was going to therapist once a week. But I just wanted to be pregnant. And so, therapy super helped me, but it wasn't making me pregnant. And so then this fallout happened, and I was like, it was not good, y'all. It was not good. So there was a lot of fallout from that. We tried to buy into this new church idea, and we went there for about 6 months, and it was just so different. It was so far from what we had fallen in love with. We felt like leadership was regularly making decisions that didn't align with our values, and there were just a lot of different pieces of the puzzle. And it was really hard because our friendships were so intricately interwoven into that church, because that had been our main source of community. And I know a lot of people have church hurt. A lot of people, I'm no different. Like there was a lot of sadness and hurt that came from this whole situation. So we walked away from the church and got pregnant with Nora, which was really great, in January of 2019. So we actually got pregnant with Nora first, and then like 2 or 3 months later, we ended up walking away from the church. We really tried to give it a shot. It just wasn't, there were just a lot of things that it just wasn't going to work for us. So we left, and church hopped around all through her pregnancy. But when we left, we had been at that church then for most of 2016, all of 2017, and almost all of 2018, and extremely involved. We hosted things at our home all of the time, Christmas parties and potlucks and things like that. I ran the children's ministry. Like, we did a lot, and we're very, very involved. And so I think it was fair for me to think that the relationships and friendships that we had built over the past 2.5, 3 years in that place, where we were going to Bible study on Wednesday night, and then a potluck on, Monday night, and then church on Sunday, and we were serving in the kids ministry and like just very, very involved. I thought that those friendships would carry, and they just really didn't. As soon as it was a very like relaxed departure. There was no chaos. We just sat down and said, hey, like, this just isn't really working for us, and there was no love lost, and everybody was great. But as we left, it became very clear that that group of people were going to continue to be friends, but since we weren't at the church, we were like no longer in. I don't know. It wasn't intentional. I don't think anyone was trying to leave us out. It was just a matter of they were together on Monday at potlucks, and they were together for the church Bible study, and they were together, and we weren't physically there. And these are busy people with busy lives, and I felt very forgotten about and very cast aside. And that was really hurtful to me after the amount of time and energy and love and relationship that we had built. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like it was starting over in a lot of ways, and that was just so devastating. But I was pregnant, and that was something that obviously had been a major desire of my heart and of Riley's, and we just wanted so badly. So it ended up being like, okay, well, we're pregnant. There's a lot of other things going on that are hard in life, but this is so exciting. So we really just poured ourselves into preparing for her birth and, I don't know, birth classes and doing her nursery and planning maternity leave for me. And like, I don't know, we just had a really, like, her pregnancy was a really, really happy time. And we went to Disney World. Like, we did all these fun things. It was really great. This was pre-pandemic, of course. We had her in late October. Her birthday is actually in 2 days when I'm recording this. We had her in late October of 2019. Super fun, super great. And then obviously the world shut down a few months later. She was 5 months old or so by March. And so I was like, this is like I know, believe me, everybody was affected. I'm like, this is like a sick joke. It's like, can't find friends, find friends. The whole church changes, and those friendships change dramatically. Try to kind of pick up the pieces, get pregnant, the whole world shuts down. I was like, good grief, this is like getting so ridiculous. But you know what? Looking back, I see the hand of God. I'm a Christian, and obviously, I guess you would guess that with the church conversations I've been having. I have become, at this stage of my life, there are some things about church culture and churchy things that are major turnoffs for me, to be honest with you. But I truly love Jesus, and I truly love the Lord, and that all of that has been refined into a deeper and greater love and makes me want to cry, love and understanding of my faith, because it's really at the core, that's just what it is. And God has been with me through all this. So anyway, all that to say, in late 2020, we start realizing our old home is getting a little small. Now, there were some friendships, but let me back up. There were some friendships that certainly carried on. And like I said, there really was not love lost. It wasn't like this big blow up, breakup situation. Like, many of the friends from the church, I still to this day talk to on some kind of basis. You know what I mean? Like it was not like this huge breakup, but there was a change. And some of those folks I continue to see and get together with regularly, and some it was more like that was for a season, and whatever. Friendships are sometimes for a reason, sometimes for a season. People say all this kind of stuff. Have Nora, pandemic hits. In late 2020, we start thinking about wanting to start looking at houses. And one of our friends says, oh, we have a realtor friend. And so we get together with her and start talking through and start looking at houses. Well, this realtor friend has become one of my very closest friends. Her name's Rachel. Now I live across the street from her. And to look back and see the hand of God in this is so fun to me. I now have this community that I could have never, ever, ever imagined or dreamt of. And you couldn't pull me into a U-Haul to move away from this community. I would be thrashing, kicking, and screaming. There is nowhere else I would rather live. There is no other place I would rather be raising our kids. I love it now. And it took a long time to get here. And my story, I just hope it can give some hope to someone else, because it is not always this easy peasy waltz into adulthood for a lot of us, especially from a social perspective. If you're moving to new cities, it's not easy. So I become friends with Rachel and start meeting a couple of her friends, but not so much at that time. We were really just seeing houses, but we had a really friendly working relationship as she was showing us these houses. Well, we looked for houses for 3 years. And in the course of those 3 years, I see how these seeds were planted, these seeds of relationship and friendship with so many different friends in this neighborhood. And it ended up being where we were looking in several different neighborhoods. But as we became friends with these folks all in this one same neighborhood, we started thinking, I think we would really like to live there over the course of the 3 years. And at the beginning, we were looking at land, looking to build on land, not here, like way out in the country. We had looked at all options and possibilities. And so as we looked and looked and looked, we ended up narrowing down our search a lot and thinking, okay, this is definitely where we want to be. Sorry, had to switch on my memory card. I know I'm chatting a lot, but I feel like it's not as impactful if I don't really share this whole story, especially if you don't know my story. So we start deciding that we'd really like to be in this one neighborhood. Time goes on, we look at a million houses, we put in offers on several, they all fall through. It's this whole thing. It's becoming just like very frustrating. But during this incubation period, from when we decided what neighborhood we were really hoping to live in until we actually bought the house that we now live in this neighborhood, there was a lot of relational development, and that was worth the wait. So we move in, we find this home, and we move in. And this is my current setup. We live 3 doors down from one friend. 2 friends live across the street, 2 separate friends. So we have 1 family, 2, 3 families. Then down the street, there's another family, 4. Let me think. Shelby, Rachel, Becca, Kelsey. Another woman named Ashley who lives around the corner, and she just had a baby. She's so sweet. And also has an older child who's in Nora's class. And then you keep going. I could go on. And these are all people that are within walking distance. I could walk to these folks' houses. These families all ended up at the same school, preschool, that Nora goes to. Every single one of the families has a child almost exactly within a couple of months of Nora's age, and almost exactly a couple of months within Colin's age. And then 2 of the families also have 2 others, so they have 4 total, but their middle 2 are right where my 2 kids are. There are multiple of the families are small business owners, and so they totally get our life, our lifestyle. We joke about taxes, we talk about it all because they totally get it. Some of the moms are full-time stay-at-home moms. Some of the moms work part-time, full-time, fit a full-time job and a part-time job. Like, they get me. It is like, I truly can't explain to you how wonderful it is. Almost every single night, I will sit out on my front patio area where we have our driveway, and the kids will ride on their bikes and stuff if it's not raining, like it's raining today. And some neighbor friend will see us out and just walk on over and sometimes bring a glass of wine for me and for her or whatever. We get together and we have these big football parties. We had like 30 or 40 people at Nora and Colin's birthday party because of all these neighbor friends. Not only do I now have a community, I'm living nestled in the middle of all of my closest friends. It is the biggest blessing to raise children around these amazing people. And we're all like houses away from each other. 2017 Blair could never. I never, ever, ever could have imagined that life would be this good, that we would get together. I would see my friends every day and get to raise children alongside other women who have similar morals and values, who live in the same place. We're doing the same school thing. We just get each other because we're all living such very parallel lives. And there's just so much love there among the relationships because all of us are thriving so much more being in an amazing community. In fact, here in just a couple of hours, we're having this whole evening where we're going to play bocce ball and have dinner and drinks. And I don't know about the bocce ball because it's pouring down rain, but like we have things planned with these folks like every couple of days. Just on Tuesday night or Wednesday night of this week, we walked across the street to Rachel's house. We were sitting out there chatting. The husbands both got home from work and they sat there and we had 4 little lawn chairs set up. Then Kelsey and her kids came over and we were sitting there. So we had all these kids running around and Rachel went inside and popped a frozen pizza in the oven and then brought out like a couple of chopped up bananas and carrots or something and just fed the kids. I'm hitting my lamp with my expressions. Like, I dreamt of that. I couldn't even have dreamt of that. I just like, it's so simple, but that's the beauty of it, is that we walked across the street. Our kids ate on her front porch step with their friends for dinner. And then we came home and like it's just so great. It's so good. Beyond that, I have an office now for my work. And so I feel very planted in that way because I have a physical location in our small town where I go and I work, and I've gotten to know all the little restaurants around it, and it's really fun. I really enjoy that. Also, low-key, our town has like seriously stepped up its game since I first moved here in 2015. There are so many really cute coffee shops and little restaurants and little boutiques that have opened in these years. And that's just been a bonus. I'm totally over not having like a Target. Like I don't even care, don't even think about it anymore. Either we take a little day trip and, drive the 30 minutes or so to go to one, or I order online, or I just forget about it and buy something else locally, go to the Walmart, whatever. It's amazing to me, my mentality and the amazing shift that there has been between when I first moved here and the devastation, the resentment, the anger, the sadness, the hurt, the feeling completely alone and just miserable, to now, when I feel really, truly happy, really lighthearted. I love that we get to do life alongside our friends in a physical sense, like quite literally alongside them because they live basically next door to us. It's such a blessing. It's one of those things where sometimes things fall apart in a way that you think this is just going to be so awful forever. And then you realize down the line, looking back, that there was something better planned all along. And there was something more fruitful and more amazing planned all along, which is very much been my experience. So all that to say, it has been a very incredible journey. Not everyone who is in a place and they don't feel super planted is necessarily going to move into a neighborhood and live alongside all of their friends. And I totally realize that. But I do believe that each person has a unique and special journey, and that community is out there. It took me a long time. But that feeling of not fitting in, not being planted, not feeling like you have a place somewhere doesn't last forever. And I really, really, really want to say that to, if you're a woman or a man, but if you're a woman, because most of my viewers are like 99% are women, and you're watching this and you're living somewhere and you just hate it, I wish I could sit across from you with a cup of coffee or tea or whatever and just talk to you, and I could just hear your heart, because I know I have journals full of these feelings, of the heartbreak of it. Let my story be an encouragement to you. It took a long time. It took highs and lows over the course of many years. But I truly, people ask me all the time, because they remember me from years ago, because I've been online for almost this whole journey. People are like, where would you move if you could move? And I am like, obviously there are places I would love to live on the beach, but that's just like fantasy land. I would truly not move. At this stage of the game, I would not want to move. There's nowhere that I would rather live than here, because I feel so rooted. I feel so planted, and I love it so much. So here's to finding our way, to things not always being easy or straightforward, but ultimately things do come together, you know? And I just wish I could give you a big hug if you're struggling right now. And you can leave your story in the comments if you'd like to share. And I will see you guys soon. You can always go watch my Rooted Journey for all the little details. Make sure to subscribe. I will talk to you very, very soon. Much, much love. Bye, guys. Oh, and thank you for being along this ride with me. You guys have been the one and only constant, aside from Jesus, my family, and Riley. This community, you guys have shown up for me over these years, and I actually can't thank you enough for that. It's actually made all of the difference, and it's given me an outlet for processing. So thank you so much. Have a really awesome day.